And let's expand on this really important theme. I'll take you back to the Sandton Convention Centre, and Bongiwe Zwane is standing by with Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana. Bongiwe?
Thank you very much, Iman. We are in conversation now with the Finance Minister, Enoch Godongwana. We also have our very own economics editor, Tshepo Mongoai, joining this particular conversation. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time. I'll start with you, Minister. One of the things that came up this morning was the fact that now the issue around, the de-dollarization conversation has been sent back to the finance ministers of the BRICS countries as well as the central bank governors in order to be able to discuss this further and see how the mechanisms work here in order to then report back next year to possibly the summit. I wonder, firstly, let's start with that particular conversation. How does it begin to even unfold amongst yourselves?
Let me say this. This debate has been kind of convoluted and influenced by a whole range of other things. I chaired the last meeting of the Ministers of Finance when we finalized our contribution to this thing. This issue never arose. Okay? Put that on record. Then, in the meeting in Cape Town of our colleagues, Ministers for International Relations, through the press conference, this thing emerged. Now, exactly what is meant, you don't know. But three things then are being put together and confused. The first one is what is called a BRICS currency. Now, when you say a currency for BRICS, you mean we're going to use a common currency. Now, let me outline what are the requirements for that. For you to have a common currency, you need one central bank. All right? Secondly, each country must be willing to lose its autonomy on monetary policy. I don't think any of these big countries at the moment is ready for losing its autonomy as we speak. And where will that central bank be? The third element, the Chinese at the moment are positioning their renminbi at the same level as the dollar, and they are always and actually pushing for it to be recognized as the reserve currency by the World Bank and the IMF. Would they want to lose that strategy in something undefined? To see, that's the first point on the BRICS currency. Can I just finish these three elements? I'm going to, because it's not quite important to draw a distinction between the three elements. The second element is what is called de-dollarization. I don't know what it means, but it means moving away from the dollar. Now, I don't know how practical that is. Let me just give an indication. If I take my foreign liabilities as South Africa, 75% of those foreign liabilities are dollar denominated and are held by the Europe and North America. What does that mean for me? So, is that practical again? I believe no. The third element is the use of local currencies. There are two dimensions to that, which in my view, that's what we're talking about. The other two are not what we're talking about. In my view, we're talking about this one, the third element, the use of local currency. There are two dimensions to it. What is the first dimension? The first dimension is what happened last week when the new development bank raised, issue bonds in rands in order to finance projects in South Africa in rands. So we've been putting this argument in the NDB that they must be able to use currencies go to these member countries, raise money, and fund projects using the local currency.
But are the markets deep enough?
No, let me just say it's deep enough. The problem is, somebody was asking me this question, the problem is, is the NDB establishing the South African market credibility sufficient enough for people to put money? Secondly, is there a credible pipeline? Because people would like to see what are they funding. All of those things were beginning to consolidate. Now, so we're saying they must do that in China as well. So that's the first element of this use of local currency. The second element of the use of local currency is I don't need to, for instance, assuming Botswana is a member of BRICS, why should I pay them not in pulas? Or why they should not pay us in rands? Assuming, of course, we can accumulate sufficient reserves of pulas so that we should be able to pay them that. So that is what we've been talking about in deepening the use of local currency, not de-dollarization, not a BRICS currency.
So what is going to inform your decision as a Ministers of Finance within BRICS? What kind of discussions are going to come out eventually?
What is going to come out is going to be, in my view, I can't prejudge for the countries, is going to be how are these countries located in the global trading arrangement and in the global. Now, if you look at South Africa, for reasons of our history, our economy is too embedded in the West. To simply say you can move away from that without serious dislocations can be a problem. I would imagine that our colleagues in the BRICS would understand those national dynamics in as much as we would understand the national dynamics facing Russia. We understand that it would be their interest to move with speed, setting up alternative arrangements because of their problem with the West. So it doesn't mean that South Africa will be in the same stable. I mean, just before the Russia-Ukraine war, Russia and Ukraine combined constituted about 5.4% of our total trade. So they're insignificant. So we can then say, let's quickly move away from the existing arrangements. You see the dilemma we face?
So how do you begin to create the balance? Because the business community, you've seen them, you've heard them, they've been calling for this particular balance to say, let the business community, we've been interviewing them ahead of the summit, and they're saying South African government needs to strike a balance here. And when you are looking at what's happening now with the summit, there are some who are saying that, unfortunately, it does look like an anti-West summit. Others are saying, try not to move as prematurely as, we are seeing that this might be. So you are talking about how embedded we are. And it comes to the West and our economy is, but how do you begin to strike that balance in practical terms? Because what is happening now is leading to some, split opinion.
I suspect this notion that this is an assembly of anti-West emerges from the West themselves. This meeting is not anti-anybody. This meeting is about ourselves deepening our relationship as the global South. That's what this meeting is about. It's not about anti-anybody. It's about deepening our relationship with the global South without, I don't think any of those countries, India, want to be anti-West, right? I can tell you now, I don't think India want to be anti-West. I don't believe Brazil want the same. I don't think the Chinese want to be anti-West. Is what I mean. So it's an impression which is being created, which is unfortunate. And we're not anti-anybody. We're just saying let's deepen our relationship as countries of the global South.
Minister, I just want to ask my final question.
Let me just say, just deal with the striking the balance. So we've always been careful in striking that balance.
Are you winning though?
As South Africa, we are. We've always maintained our relationship both with the West and the East. And that's basically our approach of non-alignment.
Are you confident that post this particular summit, South Africa will still be seen as non-aligned and striking the balance?
I don't know whether we'll be seen but our posture will be that one that we, in fact, not anti-West, but not anti-East, but a country that will establish cordial relationship with the entire world.
Minister, is the issue of common currency as envisaged and proposed by the head of states impractical?
No, let me just say the heads of state have not proposed anything. They have said, oh, guy, there's this discussion about common currency. Go and tell us how this thing is going. They have not said anything in detail about it. They said the ministers of finance must report in the next summit in Russia.
And the view is it's not going to work as...
My view, I suspect a couple of colleagues of finance ministers in the BRICS countries hold a similar view.
So what does it mean then?
Can you see, you yourselves, your questions are trapped in this notion that there should be a BRICS currency.
No, we are not trapped anywhere. We are asking what does it mean?
I told you what it means. I said what we are discussing, and we want to look at the modalities of how we can strengthen that, is how do we strengthen the use of local currencies. That's basically what the discourse is about. That's what it means.
I'm told we are out of time. We haven't seen you in such a long time. So we're being accused of hogging the time and we need to go for an ad break.
No, I've made an undertaking to pay for that. Now I'm going to be available.
Please
thank you.
because there's lots of conversations to be had. But let me thank you, Minister, for your time. Thank you for stopping by. Hopefully it's not the last. And I will not be complaining about not seeing you. Iman, a lot of talk, of course, about how these issues, the modalities are then worked out. You heard for yourself, there's still a lot that still needs to be spoken about when it comes to this issue of the local currency. What does it mean then, for you and I? What does it mean for the conversations that are going to be had by the finance ministers, the central bank governors? It's going to be interesting what unfolds from this one. Enoch Godongwana is our finance minister. Tshepo is our economics editor.